Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks. I'm back at the Dice Cup, and this evening I'm joined by Steve.
Hey, Bum.
And we just finished playing Rurik, Dawn of Kiev, which is kind of an area control game. You have a bunch of dudes, and they sort of roam around on the map, trying to control territories. It's not quite as combative as you might expect looking at it, but there's a very interesting action selection mechanism on this board here, which we'll come to in a moment. Ultimately, it's about getting points, though, and you're going to get points primarily from this board over here. You kind of go up on these three tracks. So for ruling regions, ruling means you have more than anyone else. So you can see in this region here, for example, there's three yellow guys. One, that's the actual blue leader guy. So yellow would control this or rule that region. So if you manage to rule more and more regions, you're getting points up to 8 points potentially for having lots of regions at the end of the game. You want to build things. There's a bunch of buildings that you have in your sort of component thing. These make you tougher when you're fighting. These let you convert opponents' units into your units. And these, when you tax, which is how you kind of get the goods, sort of various goods you can see on the board. These let you get more goods when you do the taxing thing. But if you build lots of these buildings in adjacent regions, you're getting points there. And then trade goods is just kind of acquiring goods. You can see there's a whole pack of different goods here. But you sort of pile them on your boat, which is quite nice because when they fill up a column, this gives you income at the end of the round for filling up a column. But also just having lots of good on the boat, you can see here, is getting you points. And that's the main way you're going to score points. There are some kind of goal cards that come out during the game, so for doing various things. So for example, this great library, if you discard a particular card and some stone, you get a build action, and this gives you a point at the end of the game. And also, you have a secret goal. Mine was to finish in first place on the trade track, and that would give me 2 points. So that track over there. So you can see there's various ways of getting points, but how do you actually take the actions? Well, there's a kind of placing the guys down here phase, where you take the guys and put them down. And you can pick any one you like. So to start with, you just have the 1, 2, 4, and 5. And I might decide, for whatever reason, I want to move my people. So I might place it there. And then it's Steve go, and he places 1 wherever he likes. And A-bombs go, and he puts 1. Now, if he puts a higher one down, is it bumps down the lower ones. So I might decide to put my 4 down. I might really want to, let's say, tax. Tax is how you get in the goods off the board. I'm going to keep taking it in turns. Steve's just put 1 over there. A1 puts 1 down. Oh, now he's added a coin to his. If you add a coin, it makes it 1 bigger. And you can have as many coins as you like. So if I was kind of crazy, I could take 2 of my coins and turn my 1 into a 3, if you like, and add it on that track. Although actually you can't do that because you have to spread out a bit more first. Let's just imagine I'm going to build for now. So I'm just going to put that 1 on the build track. And then Steve and A-bomb place a couple of 1s. I've just got my 5 left, so he's going to be quite powerful. Maybe I decide, everyone goes there, that I'm going to attack with my guy. And we'll put some corns on again, unless you go higher. So having put all those things out, you then get to resolve the actions, but the actions are resolved in terms of lowest number first. So if I was the first player, I would take this build action first, which means I'm paying a coin to build. Now, you can see obviously the higher ones, you're getting more builds here, but essentially for each build, you get to take one of your buildings and plonk it in a particular region where you have some guys. So I could put it there. Other actions then, you kind of resolve them in order, so then if like blue would go next and then A-bomb would go next with the red, but once you've done all the 1s, then you do all the 2s, then you do all the 3s. So it's quite interesting the way that works. In terms of different actions, they're fairly straightforward. Muster, for each hat here, you get to take a guy and put it on the board in one area you control. Moving obviously lets you move, each one lets you move, and there's no restriction, you can go into other people's territory, that's fine, you doesn't start combat immediately. Attacking allows you to attack for each sword in one region where you have people. So I could choose just to decide 1 sword would kill 1 guy. So it's very deterministic. But when you fight, you draw cards off this scheme deck here. And if you get this symbol here with a guy, that is a casualty. Now you're always going to draw 1 card when you fight. So I would lose my guy in that case. But if the opponent controlled the region, which he did before, because he's got more guys than me, before I fought, I'd have to draw an extra one. So it kind of increases the chance of you getting the various casualties. But yeah, in that case I would lose it. So although I killed this guy, I lost as well. So that's the attacking. Taxing, where you have people, these resources are kind of placed on the board. Yeah, here we go, some fish here. Then you basically, 1 tax point lets you take a thing off the board and it goes on to your boat. Building we talked about, you put in those things. And finally the scheme cards, as well as these being used for casualties, you can kind of take one, and it's like a special ability you can use on your turn. So in this case, you can pay a coin to do a double tax. Because the order of resolving actions is very important, being able to play these kind of when it's your turn in a different order. You see, I'm going to be building before I'm moving, before I tax, if you look at the yellow ones. So because that can mess with your plans, having these can be quite useful. And also it determines, if you go on this end one, you can potentially get the first player marker, which is a cute little bear. Where did the bear go? There he is. Over there. So you play over a number of rounds, in this case 4 rounds, place all the guys down, then resolve all the actions, and at the end of each round you kind of adjust the tracks to see who got most different points in different areas, and then as I say at the end, most points wins from all different ways. What do you think?
It's very good for an area control game. I'm not a big fan of that mechanic generally, but it's not too mean. You can attack people and you can get done in, especially in a 3-player game, if you're the one that gets attacked by more opponents than you're attacking them or something like that. The benefit of these tracks here is that once you've got to a certain spot, you can never fall backwards. So if you just fill your boat with goods and then later on you need to spend them, well, you've already got to a certain level on that track, so that's quite nice. And then maybe you can focus your strategy for the rest of the game on something different. Maybe you've got enough goods, you don't think you're going to get those 2 extra goods to fill it, but those goods are more useful for doing other things as well. So that's good. The deterministic combat is not 100% deterministic because you can suffer casualties at random, but you know if you attack that guy, the thing you're attacking is definitely going to die, which is quite nice. There's no dice rolling, there's no kind of combat power thing inside. You know definitely if I do that I'm going to beat it, but I need to make sure that I'm attacking before he moves away, or I'm attacking before he's attacking, because if he kills my guy before I can kill his, or then I've got no more guys in that region, I can't get back in that region, that sort of thing. So by far the strongest bit about this game is this board over here, where you're putting the numbers down. It reminds me of Forbidden Stars in terms of you're placing them out and hopefully doing it in the order you want them to resolve, but based on what other people do and what other people do on their turn, and when they do their actions, you might not get to do it, you might not get to see your action. In this case, you definitely get to do them in the order you want, but other people might affect the board so that kind of contradicts or does in what you were intending to do. Another nice thing is I can get to the top of one track with a 4 by putting money on it, and then put my 5 elsewhere, and my 4 will happen first. So you're making a 4 or 6 by putting 2 coins with it, but the 4 will still trigger before your 5. So adding the coins doesn't change the order that meeple will trigger, which means you can be very careful. It's a very thinky game because you're trying to plan your whole turn at the start, looking what other people are doing, well, he's taxing, which means he's going to beat me to that region, so I need to put my 1 there. I'm not going to tax as much, but I get to tax that region we're both in before it, but I've got to be careful in case he attacks my guy first, all that sort of stuff. So that's great. Attached to an area control game, not a big fan of area control, but that mechanic and that board there makes this a really nice area control game in my opinion.
Abel?
Yeah, the components are really nice. Really love the sort of wood. The figures, the leaders, I think there's 8 of them in the game. Very good quality casting. It'd be great to paint. The theme, it doesn't really feel like you're some Russian leader. It feels a little bit tacked on. I agree about this board is really interesting, trying to plan out your turn, and you put things down, you go, well, okay, number 1 is going to be a muster, so number 3 or number 2 is going to be the move, so you know that your troops will be there. That's really good. The downside, the thing I dislike is that there's a lot of cards, like the intrigue cards, which allow you to do extra actions out of turn. So you sort of plan it out and think, oh yeah, I've got this all planned, but then you find when the actual game happens, there's too many tricks people can throw in. Almost feels there's just a few too many. The last thing I'd say is, obviously it's an area control. I'm always a bit worried about 3-player area controls. The reason being that 2 people can gang up on one. This does happen a little bit. It's not that bad. If you don't like being ganged up on, because there's 3 main tracks and 2 of them is building and goods, you can sort of pick one area, hold on to there, just defend and turtle a little bit and just say, well, I'm not really going to attack much, I'm just going to build up troops, make it so difficult to be attacked, I can just do my own thing. You maybe don't get the most benefit out of the game, don't enjoy it quite as much, but you can do that. But yeah, overall I think it's quite good.
Rating?
I'd give it a 7.5.
Okay.
I actually quite like the extra bonus cards because it makes the good strategy slightly more powerful. Controlling regions is probably the most powerful thing you can do because it gives you access to more goods. But if you just get a few goods and a lot of goods in marketplaces, you can use those goods to trigger those cards more often and kind of catch up. The mechanism there I would rate it 9, but with the game, because it's area control, I'm not a big fan of it, I'll rate it 7.5.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree with all the comments. It's a really good game, I think. you need to like the area control, and the area control bit is nice. It's fairly straightforward, not too much to think about. But as they've said, that action selection board is just fantastic. So many interesting decisions there, because not only do you have to worry about can I get the better actions, like if you're going higher up you might get 2 builds instead of 1, but then the order in which they resolve, and as Stu says, with adding the coins as well, which doesn't affect the order they resolve but does affect how good the action is, there's just so much to think about. So it can be a bit of a brain strain. The first time you play this, it's like, oh my goodness, I need this, oh no, but that should be there, and can be a few take-backsies if you're not careful. But once you get the hang of it, it's just great, really, really interesting. And turns what would be a fairly mediocre game, I think, into a very good game because that's been added on. I'm quite happy with the scheme cards. You can't use them too often, but every now and then it's just a little bonus and things. When you first start, there were like rebel troops all over the board, and which sort of act as a bit of defense for the regions. When you kill them, you get a bit of a bonus. The leaders everyone has, each has their own special abilities, so there's a bit of differentiation there. I think it's a great package. For this kind of area control game, in terms of what I like, I'd be on an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a very good game. Thanks very much for watching. That was Rurik, Dawn of Kiev.